What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the Chiefs Zone podcast. Happy Monday to all of you. I am Farzin Vousoughian. Appreciate you guys joining me on the Chiefs Zone podcast on a Monday night. While there is an NFL game going on, we've got the NFL doubleheader, of course, but hey, that's okay. So we'll compete against the NFL doubleheader. Not afraid of the league, the cash cow that the NFL is. Hey, we got to do what we got to do sometimes. A lot to discuss here on the podcast, a Monday edition of the podcast. Going to talk about the Chiefs and their 0-2 start. And I kind of alluded to this yesterday, but I'll repeat some of it again today, and how I'm not hitting the panic button with the Chiefs, at least not yet. I think there's still a lot of time left to go in the season, but the 0-2 start is still not okay. With that said, all you can do is just move forward. And we have to wonder, what is next for the Chiefs? What do they do in the upcoming games against the Giants and then the Lions or Ravens and then onward? What are we going to see from the Chiefs? I'll get into that. Tim Grunhard had some very interesting comments about the Chiefs coaching staff today in an interview he did. You guys will want to hear that. And also, we'll talk about the NFL a little bit, as there have been some headlines around the league that are worth discussing, including a former Chiefs quarterback. He is about to break an NFL record, and it's not one you want to break. We'll get into that and more here on this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. I am Farzin Vousoughian. Appreciate you all joining me for this episode. A lot to go over here, as the Chiefs off to a slow start. And right now, everyone's got opinions about the way the Chiefs are looking right now, how they, all kinds of reactions right now. Let me just start off with this. And I'm keeping an eye on the chat right now, and I appreciate all of you guys watching. I need to know from you guys. No right or wrong answer. What are your thoughts to start off the season? Are you panicking? Are you concerned? Are you not concerned? Obviously, no one's okay with the 0-2 start. Nobody is. But do you have any major concerns? Do you have minor concerns? What are your thoughts on the 0-2 record going into week 3? No, again, no right or wrong answer, but I really need to know what you guys think. Comment below with that right now, and I'll get to your guys' comments shortly. Before I do all of that, I want to let you know this podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. That is where I go to for all of my sports ticketing needs, concerts, any event you want to attend. SeatGeek is the place to go. And if you're a new SeatGeek customer, you pick your tickets, and at checkout, got a little gift for you. You can enter my promo code Farzin and save $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com, pick your tickets at checkout, use my promo code Farzin if you're a new SeatGeek customer, and you will save $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. Let's see here. Rich says, me neither, Farz. We can bring it back on Instagram, KC for Life 58. With both wide receivers 1 and 2 out, to only lose by 3, I'm not worried at all. People are asking me about Tyreek Hill. I'll get to that later. That's actually on the docket for the show. Burvantes says the tush push can suck it. We'll get into that as well. Joseph says, I don't know how to feel. We've started slow in previous years. This one's more alarming. More Tyreek Hill commentary. I'm not worried. Once they get their first W, it's going to shift momentum. Bryson says we need Jerry Jeudy. I don't know about Jerry Jeudy. I saw that Browns-Bengals game from last week. Oh boy, he committed a lot of drops in that one. A lot of drops. Let me see. Sean says the sun came up this morning. Damn right. Let's see. I'll read Facebook and YouTube comments here. Billy says, don't panic until you're 0-3. Unfortunately, it's going to be a hard-fought game against Russell Wilson, who's playing lights out. That's true. Pat says, we are spoiled. We are used to winning. It's still early. I believe in my boys. Jim says, I remain optimistic because we are missing some of our best players. Yeah, that seems to be a very common response. I've already read a couple of those comments so far today. Let's see. Charles says we need a run game and no wide receivers right now, but if we fix these things, we will be fine. Also, Jones has to step up. James says we actually lost 6 in a row. Yeah, if you count the preseason, which I don't know why people count that stuff, but people count that stuff sometimes. I go to Buffalo for the game and hope this team can play better at the time in week 9. Yeah, that's true, Luke. Yeah, that's not going to be a fun one to go to. Hopefully, you'll be one of the very few smiling in that one. Can you look at what we are spending on the offensive line compared to what everyone else spends? I'll try to do that. That's actually a really good point there. Robert says concerned about the run game schedule is going to be tough. Mahomes was off on his timing with receivers. Chiefs need Brian Waters at left guard. That I agree with. Okay. All right. So I think the overwhelming reaction, and look, keep in mind, it's been more than 24 hours since the loss. I think a lot of people feel okay. I mean, they're not panicking. There might be a few people hitting that panic button, but I think for the most part, a lot of people are not there yet. Here's my thing. They're 0-2, not acceptable. And listen, I don't care how tough the schedule is. I don't care how many players are missing due to any kinds of unavailability, whether it's a suspension, injuries, whatever it is. The Kansas City Chiefs always have a tough schedule. When you finish in first place in your division, you're always going to get a first place schedule, meaning you'll play. And listen, your schedule is going to be merely the same as your division rivals, with the exception of 3 games. And, still, for the most part, you have, in general, a very similar schedule. 3 games is still, a lot of games, considering, there aren't a lot of games to begin with in the sport of football. In the NFL, it's now 17 regular season games. Now, with that said, the Chiefs always have a tough schedule every single year. And you're going to get every team's best shot. Last year, the Chiefs were without Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, and Isaiah Pacheco for the majority of that season. At different times, different players got injured, of course, but still, we're without them for quite a long time. And the Chiefs managed just fine. They won 15 games. They really only lost 2 games last year. One was in the regular season, one was in the Super Bowl. You can't really count that one game that the Chiefs, honestly, were not really trying for. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, because I'm seeing it online and I'm seeing it from some of you guys. I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, well, the Eagles played the Chiefs without Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. No, I mean, listen, the Chiefs were winning a lot of games last year with key players out. So we can't, give the inverse and say, well, the Chiefs are losing now because they're without their 2 starting wide receivers. No, I'm not going to go there. I got to keep it consistent here. I do agree that once Xavier Worthy comes back, and it sounds like he's going to play this week, according to some of the national insiders out there, I'd be very surprised if he comes back this soon. But that is the rumor out there. And then once Rashee Rice comes back, and we all know what kind of a season Rice had up until his injury, that dude was a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. He was top 5 in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns among pass catchers in the league last year until his injury. So I've got a lot of confidence that the offense will be much different when Rice returns. And I'm praying to the football gods that just one game, I'd love to see Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, and Rashee Rice play from start to finish healthy. Because, boy, for more than a year, that game's been advertised, or that unit has been advertised to be quite a weapon. And I saw this from BSO saying that even when healthy, that's not really like the murderer's row of a wide receiver trio. I completely disagree. I know we're asking a lot because, again, we have to see these guys be available. Because, listen, the best ability is availability. I mean, look at Joe Burrow, and I'm going to get into Joe Burrow a little later on because that is the biggest headline in the NFL the last 24 hours is his injury, which is just unfortunate. 3 times in 6 years might be season ending, and even if it isn't season ending, he's coming back at the damn near end of it. But you always have to figure out a way, and Kansas City's figured out a way in the past. Remember 2014? They started 0-2. The last time they started 0-2. The only other year in the Andy Reid era they started 0-2 was 2014. They missed the playoffs that year, but it wasn't because of the 0-2. Well, okay, maybe that contributed, but the Chiefs did lose 3 straight later on that year. If you recall, the Chiefs were 8-3 at one point that season. They looked like a really good football team. And I'm going to come back to 2014 in a moment here, because this narrative going on with the Chiefs was happening that year. Let's not forget about 2021, which, by the way, 2014, they finished with a 9-7 record, came very, very close to making the playoffs, just fell a game short. 2021, they overcame a 3-4 start, and damn near everybody wrote off the Chiefs. I still remember Ryan Clark calling the team broken. And oh boy, he got called out by Chiefs fans after they won the AFC West that year. And by the way, who was leading the AFC West when the Chiefs were 3-4? Oh, that's right, the Raiders at 5-2. Now the Raiders still made the playoffs that year, but boy, they had a really big lead on the division. Quite the lead, and they blew that. 2022, the Chiefs were written off before the season began. Remember that when Tyreek Hill was traded? And they did not look like a team that was going to suffer any kind of setback whatsoever. They only lost 3 games in the regular season. 2023, they were written off because of all the drops and the offensive tackle issues. 2024, what was the narrative there? Oh yeah, their luck will run out. Okay, maybe they got destroyed in the Super Bowl, but I don't know if I would say their luck ran out if they made it to the Super Bowl. I mean, sure, they didn't pull off the three-peat, which would have been a historic moment, but they still got to their 3rd straight Super Bowl. I mean, no one else has been able to do that other than the Patriots in recent memory. So my whole point here is, and by the way, I've got one other important year in between all of that. 2015, the Chiefs started 1-5 that year. What happened? They won 10 straight games to finish the regular season, and they made it 11 straight, snapping a 22-year postseason drought. The same year they started 1-5 is the same year they snapped the playoff drought. And that was when they didn't have Patrick Mahomes. So we've seen this team overcome slow starts without Patrick Mahomes, before Mahomes arrived, I should say. And we've also seen them overcome adversity in the Patrick Mahomes era. Listen, if you've paid attention to this Chiefs dynasty, starting in 2018 when Patrick Mahomes started taking the reins from Alex Smith and became the starting quarterback, nothing's been perfect. 2018 ended with the Chiefs firing their entire defensive coaching staff. In 2019, there were some concerns. 2020, the Chiefs won 15 games that year, I think. But there were a lot of concerns about the Chiefs not covering the spread that year, just like 2024. And I mentioned all of the other years in there as well. 21, the slow start. 22 and 23, they were written off either before the season or during the season, and they won the Super Bowl those 2 years. This Chiefs dynasty has been far from perfect. You know what other dynasty has been far from perfect? The New England Patriots dynasty, when Brady was there for 18 years. Oh boy. Let me go back to 2014. Remember in 2014 when the Patriots got off to, I think it was a 2-2 start? And who did they lose to in that 4th game? Oh, that's right. It was to Kansas City at Arrowhead, where the Chiefs, for the second time, taking it back from Seattle, the Guinness Book of World Record for loudest stadium in the NFL, and it has not been taken away since then. Buffalo's tried it. Seattle tried to take it back at one point. They have not been able to. And since then, that record has stood at Arrowhead. But when you look at the Chiefs right now and compare that to the Patriots, the narrative is extremely similar. I keep hearing all about the Chiefs and how they're done and the dynasty's over and Mahomes is done, Kelsey's washed, Andy Reid, the game has gotten past him. I heard a lot of the exact same things in 2014. And listen, don't take it from me. So at the time I was working for 610 Radio in Kansas City, and I remember that was also the Chiefs had a Monday Night Football game, and then the next day they had the Royals wildcard game, the first Royals postseason game in 29 years. For a lot of Royals fans, first time in their lifetime seeing the Royals in a playoff game. But so 610 basically decided to go on the air for a whole 24 hours, and they didn't want to go to national radio overnight. And I remember overnight, and I worked part of the overnight shift. We need a little bit of a break. So 610 decided to air their sister station in Boston to see what they were saying about the Chiefs Patriots matchup in their recap. Oh boy. You could tell the sky was falling in Foxborough. It was the fans, it was the media. They were writing off Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Specifically, word for word, they said that the Belichick and the Brady scheme was no longer palpable. And they talked about how they had to move on from those guys. Their own media, their own fan base, because fans were calling in, complaining about those two, feeling like their best years were gone and behind them. And then what happened? The Patriots won the Super Bowl that year. That's why I find it funny when the Patriots were visiting the Chiefs for the AFC title game a few years after that. I guess Patriots fans were creating this narrative that, oh, everyone's doubting us. That entire city, fans and the media, doubted their own team. And you're seeing a little bit of that here in Kansas City right now. I'm not going to say it's the exact same level, because I think Chiefs fans have more confidence in this unit right now to bounce back and turn things around. Though I will say, if the Chiefs start 0-3, you will get a lot of those same narratives like the Patriots did in 2014. But the Patriots were written off in 2014. Every single person, when the Chiefs destroyed the Patriots that night on Monday Night Football, it was a 41-14 game. The funniest part of that game is when Garoppolo, who came in for Brady because Brady got pulled in that game, he threw a garbage time touchdown pass to Gronk, and Gronk didn't even bother doing his iconic spike. He just tossed the football sideways to the ref. Didn't even want to hand it to the ref or do a spike, which I thought was the funniest part of the whole night. But that and Justin Houston blocking Tom Brady on that pick six. But anyway, I digress. The point here is Patriots were written off. And the narrative following that game was not Kansas City played great. It was New England got embarrassed on Monday Night Football. Everyone from the national media and sports talk radio stations across the country were bashing the Patriots, basically saying that their time was up and they won a Super Bowl that year. That was the same Super Bowl, if I recall correctly, that was against the Seahawks, where play action, they tried to make it look like they were running with who's the guy who that's not a photographer? I'm here so I don't get fined. What's his name? Marshawn Lynch. Faked it to him. Wilson throws an interception in the end zone. That's how the Patriots season ended, after being written off following that whiplash from Kansas City in week 4. So the way I see it right now, Kansas City is getting some of those comparisons. There are a couple of people out there locally and nationally that are writing off the Chiefs, saying, hey, it's over, it's done, good luck, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not ready to write this team off yet. I'm not ready to hit the panic button. And I said this in a clip earlier that came out about an hour ago. I will hit the panic button if the Chiefs do start 0-3. Because I do think a loss to the Giants, and I know a lot of people are saying the Giants look good last game. Yes, but Dallas's defense, I have a lot of questions about that defense. And this is the other thing too, because I feel like in the NFL, you don't really have a good grasp of how teams are until you're 3 weeks fully through. I think once you pass week 3, you have a good idea as to who's good and who's not, what teams look like. That's just my opinion. Some say week 4, some say week 2. Close enough at the end of the day. Here's the big thing. Because Tim Grunhard, before I get to Tim Grunhard, I think a lot of the issues in these two games were mental errors. I mean, the Chiefs offense not really being consistent, missing on some of those deep passes down the field, and I think even overcomplicating some things. What was it? 3 and out in their first 3 drives against the Chargers. Chris Jones attacking the inside rather than the outside when that's exactly what they called for. Those kinds of things, those kinds of mental errors hurt Kansas City. The tackling was not very good in that first game. Well, what happened in the second game against Philadelphia? Defense was much better. The defense held the Eagles, the reigning Super Bowl champions, the same Super Bowl champions who just whooped your ass 7 months ago, held them to 20 points. I mean, if you hold the Philadelphia Eagles to 20 points, you've got a really good chance of winning if you can get an offense going. Unfortunately for Kansas City, they could not get an offense going. And once they started to get into a rhythm, boy, that backbreaker, massive 14-point swing when Kelce did not pull in that pass. And I saw, and I apologize, I don't remember who pointed this out on Twitter, but somebody posted a video of Jalen Carter. Looked like his thumb got that football, was able to tip it. It still wasn't that bad of, sure, maybe it might have thrown off the spiral, because football players are not expected to catch passes if they're wobbly, I guess. I still didn't think it was that bad of a tip to where Kelce could not pull it in. I mean, it hit him right in the hands. And I know Mahomes in his post-game press conference said, could have thrown a little higher. It was a tad early, all these things. But that's one Kelce still should have pulled in. I saw him catch a pass lower than that earlier in that game in the second quarter on a 4th down play, mind you. So these are the mental errors that I think Kansas City just needs to work on and be better about. I said this in the offseason. It's not that long ago, 2 years ago, where we're removed from leading the league in drops and watching that disaster, which led to a Super Bowl win. I mean, if there was any year where people were certain that the Chiefs were not going to make it, it was 2023. I mean, keep in mind, they played the Bengals in that New Year's Eve game in week 17. That was the second to last week of the regular season. The Bengals were leading that game 17-7, and the Chiefs had not clinched a playoff spot yet. But they gradually came back. They just kicked field goals the rest of the game. Harrison Butker won Special Teams Player of the Week that week for beating the Bengals. 6 field goals. And they won the AFC West. And I remember when the Chiefs were down 17-7 in that game, there were a lot of concerns as to whether or not the Chiefs would make the playoffs, given how they looked. Now, a week later, they played a Chargers team that had already fired their coach. They were using a backup quarterback because Herbert was injured. So they would have taken care of business that day because the Chiefs put in their backups as well. Blaine Gabbert started that game, and they won 13-12. So, I mean, listen, the Chiefs would have taken care of those backups for sure. But the point here I'm trying to make is we've seen the Chiefs get off to slow starts, and maybe not slow starts, but have some bumpy moments along the ride. And people would use those hiccups in the middle of the season and say, they're not making the playoffs, or they're not going to reach it to the Super Bowl. This team's made it to the AFC title game every single year with Mahomes. And listen, that's going to come to an end someday. Is that year going to be this year? I don't know. But I'm not ready to write that Chiefs team off yet. I was listening to John Gruden, and he was being asked by Dave Portnoy whether or not Gruden would rather be the 0-2 Chiefs or any of these 2-0 teams. So the first 2-0 team was the Bills, and Gruden said he would rather be the Bills, which makes absolute sense. The Bills look great right now. And listen, they've got a nice lead in the AFC over the Chiefs, something they did not have last year. The Chiefs never were behind in the conference standings once. Even when they lost to the Bills, they were still ahead. But then he was asked, would he rather be the 0-2 Chiefs or the 2-0 Bengals? Gruden was very quick to say the Chiefs. And listen, for obvious reasons, because Burrow's out right now. And then was asked the 2-0 Colts or the 0-2 Chiefs. Gruden still went with the Chiefs. This is a guy who knows what the hell he's talking about. Listen, I know salaries for media are out of control now, but when Gruden was part of the Monday Night Football commentary team, he was the highest paid analyst that year. And the job he did for a very long time as an analyst was considered some of the best in all of sports. So this guy knows what the hell he's talking about. He's not going to get it right every single time. Nobody does. But Gruden, who's considered to be one of the best analysts in sports, if he's sitting here telling you not to write off the Chiefs, I think he's onto something. Yes, he's good friends with Andy Reid, no question about it. But the guy's not going to just ruin his reputation and just, favor the Chiefs because of his friendship with Andy Reid. He'll keep it 100 with you. So at the end of the day, I think we've got to slow down a little bit here. Yeah, the 0-2 start's not okay, but there are still 15 more games to go. A lot of games left to go. And they'll be fine. I do want to get into Tim Grunhardt's comments because he goes on A10 Mondays, and he was asked about the basically the status of the team, just kind of the state of the team and where they are. He didn't hold back any punches. He actually called out Andy Reid and Andy Heck. Andy Heck, of course, the offensive line coach, and I think Tim Grunhardt said he played for Andy Heck, which I did not realize at one point in his career. Grunhardt mentioned that he feels like Andy Heck's job has to be on the line. Andy Reid, Grunhardt's suggestion was that Andy Reid needs to hand off play calling duties to the offensive coordinator. Now, we've seen Andy Reid do this before. We saw him do it in 2015. And what happened after a 1-5 start? You hand off play calling duties to Doug Peterson. You finish the regular season, on a 10-game winning streak. And then what happened in 2017? Doug Peterson was not the offensive coordinator. It was Matt Nagy, who's also the offensive coordinator now. Andy Reid handed off play calling duties to Matt Nagy. And keep in mind, that's when Alex Smith was a quarterback. But Matt Nagy was then the play caller, as far as we knew, for the last 4 or 5 games of the regular season. And the Chiefs finished the regular season on a 4-game winning streak. They won the AFC West with a 10-6 record that year. So, listen, I know a lot of people are not fans of Matt Nagy. I'm not quite a fan of Matt Nagy. I'm also not a Matt Nagy detractor. But the criticism of the offense is always weird to me. I said this yesterday, but I'll say it again. Whenever things are working on offense, who do people praise? Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid. Those people get the credit. When things are not working, who do people blame? Eric Bieniemy or Matt Nagy, whoever the offensive coordinator is. It was Eric Bieniemy, and since Bieniemy moved on, it's been Matt Nagy, who's the scapegoat for whenever things don't work on offense. People point the finger at him. I've never understood that criticism. How is it that Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce get all the credit in the world when things are working, but when they don't work, they don't get any of the blame? These guys are not above criticism. I'm not saying, hey, let's point the finger at them, and while we're doing that, let's just forget about what they've done for this football team. No, not at all. Not at all. Now, the idea that the game has passed Andy Reid, these kinds of things, I think that is definitely an overreaction. 100% an overreaction. We really think the game has gotten past Andy Reid, the guy that's guided the Chiefs to 9 straight AFC West titles, the guy that's coached the Chiefs to 7 straight AFC Championship game appearances, the guy that's led the Chiefs to the last 3 Super Bowls, winning 2 of them back to back. So all of a sudden, 7 months later, the game has passed him. No one was saying this 7 months ago about Andy Reid. But because the Chiefs are off to an 0-2 start and they've lost 3 straight dating back to the Super Bowl, suddenly now the game has passed Andy Reid. Listen, I think Andy Reid deserves some criticism. But let's slow it down a little bit with this BS of, oh, the game's gotten past him and all these things. Let's slow it down a little bit. I will say this. If they're 0-3, they lose to the Giants, I have no idea what the hell to expect against the Ravens. Which leads me to my next point. What are the Chiefs going to look like? Because this Giants team defensively they have not looked good. They gave up 21 points to the Commanders in week 1, and yesterday against the Cowboys, they gave up 34 in a game that went into overtime. You would think that Kansas City offensively can get going in this one here. But we've thought that many times last year. And maybe that's where the injuries and the unavailability of some players, specifically at the wide receiver position, come into play. So here's my question. Let's just assume Xavier Worthy plays. Let's just assume best case scenario. Let's assume Xavier Worthy is able to play like nothing happened to him. He's 100% fully healed and recovered. Big if, but let's just go with that for a moment, please. What is this Chiefs offense supposed to look like? Because they have not put up a lot of points in recent years. How many times have they put up 30 or more points? Last year, they only did it once, and that was in the AFC Championship game over the Bills. In 2023, okay, they put up 41 on the Bears, and then there were 2 games where they scored 31. One against the Raiders in Vegas, and the other was against the Chargers at home. So they have not put up 30 or more points often, only 4 times in the last 2 seasons. Which does lead me to wonder, what will the Chiefs look like? Not just this Sunday night, but for the remainder of the season. Is this a team that is determined on having a healthy receiving core? Because what have the Chiefs done? What did they do in the 2024 offseason? They drafted Xavier Worthy and they signed Hollywood Brown. And I think part of that might have been in fear of losing Rashee Rice because of some of the off-the-field instances. But look at the team right now. This Chiefs team, they've added a lot of depth. You have Rice, you have Worthy, you have Hollywood, you have Jalen Royals, who's dealing with an injury right now. You have Tyquan Thornton, who was not really much of a player in New England. And yeah, he and Mahomes, they've got to work on that connection, but they scored on a big play yesterday. So I'm confident that with Tyquan Thornton on the team, that's going to help the Chiefs a lot. And if Xavier Worthy is fully healed or close to fully healed and can play at least more than half the snaps on Sunday night, maybe Kansas City can get something going with that unit offensively. If you have Hollywood Brown, if you have Tyquan Thornton, if you have Xavier Worthy, I think that can really help out your offense. And listen, I know Travis Kelce, 2 games in a row, missing on the connection with Mahomes right inside the 5. But Kelce, I feel like, has had a little bit more involvement in these 2 games. I feel like Kelce has certainly been much more noticeable in the offense. Look, the offensive line. Look, I've got another question for you guys. So this is another question for you guys. Through 2 games this year, do you feel like the Chiefs' offensive line is better or worse? I mean, you can elaborate on your answer if you want, but I just need to know, do you think it's better or worse? I actually think it's better. Now, Kingsley Suamataia has to improve. He's not a good left guard through 2 games. I mean, he's letting just simple blitzes without dealing with any other defender in front of him. He's just letting defenders get by him at times. Jawan Taylor, yeah, he's got the penalty issues. He's an inconsistent pass blocker. So I'm really curious to know, do you think the Chiefs' offensive line through 2 games, do they look better this year or do they look worse compared to last year? Alonda says it's a little better. Bob says it's improving. Charlene says, I think the O-line is better than last year. Crucial downs, Jawan Taylor will get you a flag. Yeah, that's true. Mike on Instagram says tricky but better. Lil Baldy 15 says, I'll say the offensive line is okay. So I think a lot of people agree that the offensive line is better this year than last year, because last year was a disaster. Patrick Mahomes was dealing with the carousel of left tackles getting beat, whether it was Kingsley, whether it was DJ Humphries, who barely played for the Chiefs, Wanye Morris, like whoever was playing left tackle for the Chiefs, they were just getting beat. Joe Thuney was far from perfect, but dude, he's your best left tackle that you've had since you moved on from Eric Fisher. And right now, when you look at that offensive line for the Chiefs, they are playing better football. Josh Simmons looks really good through 2 games. Okay, he's had a couple of rookie mistakes. I'm not losing sleep over that. He's a rookie. He's going to have his moments. I'm a little nervous to see how he's going to look against Max Crosby. I don't think the Chiefs play the Browns this year. No. Myles Garrett, I mean, we see what he did to Orlando Brown last week, who was a former Chief. So I think the offensive line is better this year. Patrick Mahomes, not every single time, but more times than not, Patrick Mahomes has had time in the pocket. I remember watching snaps last week on Thursday or Friday night against the Chargers. I'm like, why is Patrick not throwing the football? Why is no one getting open? And then I quickly thought to myself, I'm like, wait a minute. He has time in the pocket. Holy shit. Patrick Mahomes has time in the pocket. We finally have pass blocking. As long as you have the offensive line, as long as you have the pass protection, I think the Chiefs can figure it out. It still needs to be better. And I think we all agree it's a little better than last year. That needs to be better. Charlene saying the O-line is struggling to create those holes for the running backs. Okay, so a lot of you guys have mentioned this earlier. I've not even mentioned a running back here. Patrick Mahomes is your leading rusher, and it's not even close. When you look at the Chiefs right now, when it comes to their rushing stats, Mahomes leads the team with 123 yards off 13 scrambles. Kareem Hunt has the same number of runs as Mahomes, and he's got 47 yards. He's averaging 3.6 yards per carry. Pacheco's averaging 3.1 yards per carry. Hunt and Pacheco each have 47 yards. And they're both still below Patrick Mahomes combined. Listen, Pacheco, that dude is tough as nails, and he's done so much for the team the first 2 years, but he really took a big step back last year, especially coming back from injury. Kareem Hunt's provided a nice boost, especially when the Chiefs were in desperate need of help last year when they lost Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, and Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, they literally had nobody. They just had a young Xavier Worthy that was still using training wheels. There were a lot of issues, and Kareem Hunt did give the Chiefs a nice little boost. And I know, like a lot of you guys, I love the story with Kareem Hunt, him getting a second chance, the Chiefs believing in him and giving a second chance. That was covered very well in the docuseries, The Kingdom. And if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's on ESPN Plus, Disney Plus. It's a fantastic series. And the second episode spends a lot of time talking about Andy Reid and the second chances he's given to guys like Mike Vick and Kareem Hunt. And it's one that definitely, I think a lot of people, and you even heard John Harbaugh kind of campaign for that. Harbaugh, who, of course, coached with Andy Reid in Philly. But the thing about the running backs right now, as much as I really want Kareem Hunt to get one ring, I'd love for Pacheco to stick around. The running backs are not getting it done. Now, how much of it is the running backs? How much of it is the offensive line? This is the part. Yeah, a lot of you guys are commenting on the running backs. This is the one that's definitely getting a lot of reactions from you guys in terms of comments that I've been providing. Yeah, the thing about the running backs right now, I don't think they're getting much help from the offensive line. They're not. The problem here is, and I know there was that question earlier about how much the Chiefs are spending at offensive line compared to other teams. That's actually a really good question. I'll try to look that up while I'm talking here. But that fourth down call, look, we all hate punters. We hate kickers. Well, I mean, okay, we love Matt Araiza and Harrison Butker, but no one wants to ever see the punter. No one ever wants to see the kicker on 4th and short. If you're in field goal range, everyone wants to see teams go for it and be aggressive. So I didn't really have an issue with the Chiefs going for it, but that play call was lousy. I don't know what that was. The Chiefs, out of all the things they could have run, and they did this last year against Buffalo, and the Chiefs were what, 3 of 3 on 4th downs last week? Boy, I just felt like the Chiefs could have come up with a better play call there. And again, I know this ongoing debate. Who's the play caller? Is it the offensive coordinator or is it Andy Reid? As far as we know, it's Andy Reid until proven otherwise or told otherwise. Hold on, let me Google something. Because I'm having a hard time looking this up on Spot Track. It's not letting me sort it out while I'm trying to talk, by the way. It's not letting me sort it out by teams here. It's showing just individuals. Yeah, I can't figure that out right now while I'm doing this. I'm going to look into this. This is actually a really good topic. I apologize. Whoever brought this idea up. It's actually a very good point to look into the Chiefs. And I feel like when you're paying Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith and Jawan Taylor that much money, man, you got to get a push up front. You've got to get a push up front. So look, yeah, they're off to a slow start, but as I've elaborated multiple times by now, this team has been written off before. I mean, I'm not losing sleep over the Chiefs right now, and I hope you guys are not either, because the moment you write off this Chiefs team, they find a way. Remember when they were written off, even by me, 24-0 against Houston? Yeah, they erased that deficit in 11 minutes, less than that even. So I'm not hitting the panic button yet, but boy, my finger is on it if they go 0-3. I'll tell you that right now. All right, I do want to talk about some things outside of Kansas City. Let's not go too far outside of Kansas City. I do want to get into the tush-push conversation because that is getting all kinds of commentary in the last 24 hours. Obviously, the big reason for this is because Philadelphia, it was noticed by a lot of people, and even on the broadcast, they pointed out that 2 offensive guards from the Eagles jumped before the ball was snapped. And that's obviously a clear false start. And that was not called. And I think there was some sort of confusion at the end of the game where Jalen Hurts evidently fumbled and Drew Tranquill had the football and the Chiefs were pointing the other direction. And even the clock operator didn't know what to do. He just stopped the clock because he thought it was a turnover. Look, I know Dean Blandino on the broadcast was saying he's done with the tush push, which I thought was kind of a funny thing to say. Listen, I've said this already to you guys. I'm not one of those people that is campaigning to ban the tush push. I'm just not in favor of that kind of thing. It's a legal play and it's operated fairly. Now, have the Eagles gotten away with some things? Yes, I think because of the way they line up and the way they're able to maybe sneak those guards out there to jump before the snap. They're able to kind of, the other offensive linemen are able to shield the referees from seeing that. And then, if there is a fumble in the middle of that pile, I mean, the officials are going to be there maybe a little too late. But here's my thing. Number one, I think instead of campaigning to ban it, they need to allow defensive players to do the same thing. Though I don't know how much that will change, but some people think that could actually help defenses if they can also push, if you will. Here's the other thing. Because this got very interesting today. Now, I've been on Twitter. When did Twitter, which is now X, it came out in 2006. I've been on it since 2009. And if you look at anyone's profile on X, it shows when they signed up for X. I have seen a lot of people over the years share clips of NFL games online, highlights. A lot of people have said every NFL Sunday, people are uploading clips. Sometimes they wait for the NFL to upload something and then they will just share it from their end. Some people will just upload it on their own and like not sharing it or retweeting it from the NFL's account. They'll just upload it themselves. And I've never seen the NFL go after anyone making a copyright claim on these videos. But all of a sudden, and this is where things got very interesting today, I saw this from lots of people in the media, including guys like Chase Daniel, Marcus Mosher, Barstool Sports. And listen, whether they're the media or not, there are a lot of people, me included, who have uploaded NFL clips online, and the NFL has never taken them down. They've never filed for a copyright strike. Until today, anybody that was uploading footage of the Eagles getting away with a false start with their two guards, those videos were taken down due to copyright claims. Why would the NFL need to do that all of a sudden? Because I don't think the NFL just decided, following week 2 of NFL Sunday, the Monday, September 15th, the morning of that day, they wanted to all of a sudden start filing copyright claims on any videos uploaded by anyone that does not have the rights to upload any NFL footage. So where did this come from suddenly? Because this looks really suspicious. Boy, could you imagine if people were uploading clips about the Chiefs and some of the close calls or calls they got away with in last year's game, if the NFL filed copyright claims on those videos? Oh, the conspiracy theories would be running wild. And the conspiracy theories are very high right now. A lot of people are accusing the Eagles of getting games rigged. Oh, that's funny. I heard that narrative before. Where have I heard that? Oh, yeah, in Kansas City. Yeah, the Chiefs were getting that narrative. And before that, it was the Patriots. So wait a minute. Is it really about the officiating, or do people just say that when a team is on top of the world and winning so much? Oh, I think a lot of people just showed their asses with this one. Oh, boy. Yeah. There are a lot of the same people who've been beating that drum of Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs getting help from the officials, getting spoon-fed all these calls and missed calls. Now that's being shifted over to Philadelphia's side. Oh, boy. Eagles fans, have fun with that narrative, because Chiefs fans, including me, had a lot of fun having to defend that. We have passed on the torch to you, Philadelphia fans. Have fun with that. Yeah. Good luck. Woof. Yeah, that's I'm excited to watch. I hope Philadelphia keeps winning. Yeah, you know what? Keep winning some games. Let's see how that goes. Yeah, it was never about the officiating. It's about whoever wins football games. I do not want to hear any bitching and moaning from any NFL fan ever. Like, if you are a Browns fan, your team just fucking sucks, okay? Don't bitch and moan anymore. Like, your team just sucks and the other teams are just good and they supposedly have the refs on their side. That's how that narrative goes. I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about Joe Burrow here. as he has suffered a toe injury. They're calling it turf toe, but this is a very unique injury to Joe Burrow. So in 6 seasons, Joe Burrow has suffered 3 injuries. Well, okay, it's actually 4 injuries. 3 of them are major ones. 2020 had that knee injury, missed, I think, the last 6 games. 2023 had this wrist injury that no one's ever heard of before. And he missed the remainder of the season at the halfway point. And in week 2, he has this unique turf toe injury to where he's going to miss at least 3 months, according to a lot of reports. It's bad enough to where there are reports out there that the Bengals are calling free agent quarterbacks. Listen, every quarterback gets hit. I don't care if you have the best offensive line or the worst offensive line. And Joe Burrow right now has the worst offensive line. But I think Joe Burrow has to take responsibility here, because whenever there are elite players, and listen, I have criticized this. I know LeBron James has an influence on how the team needs to operate things. He's had that in the past. I know Patrick Mahomes does as well. I don't agree with that. I don't care how great of a player you are. You should never have your word should never have any weight on what a team should do. But, players that of a superstar status like a LeBron, Mahomes, Brady, they earn the right to, I guess, speak to the front office and give their input on things. Burrow, obviously, same thing for him, because he was strongly campaigning publicly for the team to pay both Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins. Now, T. Higgins, I don't know, man. Ja'Marr Chase, I can see. But T. Higgins, as much as I like T. Higgins, he's a phenomenal player, just like Ja'Marr Chase is. If you're paying QB1, in what world do you need to pay wide receiver 2? In fact, I would even strongly argue that if Cincinnati's offensive line is that bad, which it is, you might have to make that really unfortunate sacrifice and move on from both receivers just to give Burrow 5 good offensive linemen. Because if Burrow is that good, and as much as Ja'Marr Chase is amazing, obviously was a Triple Crown receiver last year, if Burrow is that elite of a quarterback, which I think he is, he can throw to anyone. Can he not? As long as he has an offensive line, that dude can go out there, sling it, and win with any receivers. I mean, if you have Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney as your receivers, you're screwed. But if you have, wide receivers that are above average, and quarterbacks can get the best out of these players and make them better, Burrow can win with anyone. So I think the Bengals have to take this one on the chin, because they did not give Joe Burrow the offensive line he deserves. They overpaid Orlando Brown. They overpaid Joe Burrow. Ever since Joe Burrow signed that contract in 2023, he had that calf strain that made him miss all of training camp in the preseason. And then he later that year, well, first of all, at the same night when the Chiefs and Lions were playing, they signed Joe Burrow to that massive deal, which was a surprise. And then he got injured that year, and he's about to miss another season because he's coming back in December. I mean, if the Bengals are not in contention, Joe Burrow, it's not worth playing Joe Burrow. Now, Jake Browning's done some good for them, so we'll see. But boy, the Bengals, I mean, they've got to take this one on the chin here. They didn't do their quarterback any favors. They certainly didn't do any favors for him when he was trying to get to the locker room. Instead of getting one of those carts, he had to put his arms over the 2 trainers walking to the locker room. I mean, just spit on his face at that point and just say, yeah, we don't give a shit about you. Like, we're going to make you walk to the locker room with this toe injury. Like, I mean, if that was Patrick Mahomes, I would have a lot of questions about the Chiefs training staff and how they operate things at Arrowhead. Because there's no way in hell Rick Burkholder would have let him go without a cart. He would have said, no, you're going on a cart to the locker room. And yeah, the visiting team tunnel and the Chiefs tunnel, 2 different areas. But through the visiting team tunnel, you still have access to get to the training room. Now Mahomes would have to walk off a little bit. That's when the trainers would go next to him, one on each side, and help him. But it's not going to be as long of a walk. But that's besides the point. I mean, listen, just get John Deere as a sponsor. They'll give you some carts. But boy, 3 major injuries in 6 years. Look, I hate to say it, but I do worry that a great quarterback like Joe Burrow, he might be on that Andrew Luck trajectory. And I would even compare him to Andrew Bynum from the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, Andrew Bynum always just had some weird injury that no one had ever heard of before. And Andrew Bynum was a talented player. Whenever he was healthy, boy, I mean, the Lakers definitely benefited from having him. But man, I mean, not only is Joe Burrow injury prone, but he's dealing with injuries that no one's ever heard of. Okay, turf toe we've heard of, but to the extent that his injury is, it's like something's not up here. And listen, I will say this with the benefit to Joe Burrow, sometimes we hear things get reported and it's not always accurate. So there might be a little something that we don't know publicly. That happens sometimes. But what we do know is this is his 3rd major injury since he's joined the Bengals. And I don't know if this guy's going to have a very long career. How many years did Andrew Luck play? Because I've already seen the Andrew Luck comparisons. Andrew Luck, do you guys remember suck for luck? I was calling for the Chiefs to suck for luck. I remember wanting that guy so badly in Kansas City. And I'm trying to look through Andrew Luck's Wikipedia. He played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons. Okay, he played 7 seasons. But the 6th season doesn't really count because he didn't play that year. Now, what year did he retire? Was it 2019? Yeah, it was 2019. If you guys recall, the Colts had a preseason game and Adam Schefter, and I honestly don't even think Adam Schefter knew there was a preseason game going on for the Colts at the time. But Adam Schefter just reported, yeah, Andrew Luck's done playing football. So Andrew Luck had to do an impromptu retirement speech after a preseason game, which was completely unexpected. Yeah, I mean, it sucks, man. There are a lot of great players. Like, I'll say this in recent memory from the Chiefs. Okay, maybe not too recent, but still fairly recent. Remember Tony Moeaki? I thought he got off to a great start his rookie year with the Chiefs in 2010. And I thought this was a tight end that was going to stick around for a long time in Kansas City. But unfortunately, injuries caught up to him. There are a lot of great football players in this sport, really in all of sports. They have the talent, they have the potential, but injuries have other plans. I've said this many, many times. This is probably the most repeated quote from me. Injuries are part of sports in a very unforgiving way. It sucks, but that is part of the sport, whether we like it or not. Who looks like the best team through the first 2 weeks of the NFL season? I'd say Buffalo is very high up there. Philadelphia, yeah, they're 2-0. I think they've gotten some gifts from the opponents, the Chiefs and the Cowboys. But listen, they're the reigning champs and still 2-0 for now. But to me, the best team in the NFL right now, Green Bay. They beat up on Detroit in week 1. They beat up the Commanders on Thursday night. What do Detroit and Washington have in common? They played each other in the divisional round of the playoffs last year in a fairly high-scoring game. But the Lions just had no answers anytime the Commanders' offense was on the field. The Lions had the number 1 seed. The Commanders, as a wild card team, reached the NFC Championship. And the Packers. Now, it's not like the Packers just destroyed them and scored all sorts of points. They weren't lining up the scoreboard, but man, they were not letting the Lions or the Commanders do anything in that game. The Packers have had full control of 2 games against 2 very good football teams, 2 teams that I think will make the playoffs this year. But boy, the Packers made them look like non-contenders. This Packers team is pretty damn scary. Listen, I said Chiefs Lions for my Super Bowl prediction. I'm going Chiefs Packers. Yeah, I said what I said. Speaking of the Chiefs, a former player of theirs, Carson Wentz, is about to break an NFL record. Carson Wentz is going to start for the Minnesota Vikings this week because of an injury that J.J. McCarthy is dealing with. Carson Wentz will start for 6 different teams in 6 consecutive seasons. I still remember in 2017, the same year Philadelphia won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles in the playoffs. Well, Carson Wentz had an MVP type of season that year. And now he's been a guy that's being given chances to now being a backup. I mean, the guy's a journeyman. I mean, you don't need me to say that. 6 teams in 6 years, 6 different starts in 6 straight seasons, with different teams. Boy. Listen, I'm pulling for Carson Wentz. I actually had a chance to meet him last year. Really good dude. You pull for guys like that, but man, that's not a record you want to break. That is not a record you want to break. By the way, speaking of records you don't want to break, Joe Burrow, he's already won Comeback Player of the Year award twice. He might win it for a 3rd time. That's not a record you ever want to have. And he acknowledged it when he won it a 2nd time. But hopefully he's able to recover and come back stronger, because whenever you have great quarterbacks in the league, it's always good for the NFL and it's good for NFL fans. People love that stuff. So that's unfortunate. One thing I do want to go over here before I sign off, I forgot to put this on the rundown, but Pervantis says Green Bay's defense reminds me of the 2018 Seahawks. Oh, that's actually a really interesting comparison. I'd say a couple of years earlier of the Seahawks era, where they had the Legion of Doom. Legion of Zoom was KC. I can see that comparison for sure. Assuming you meant like the 2013, 14, 15 defense that the Seahawks had. Wentz is where he's with the Vikings. He signed like towards the end of the preseason. Anyway, I do want to talk about this because I forgot to get into this to go back to the Chiefs one last time. Chris Jones is facing a lot of criticism because while the Eagles were in victory formation doing QB kneels, Chris Jones, hot mic, picked it up. Chris Jones is shouting at Jalen Hurts saying, you barely got 100 yards or something to that effect. And Jalen Hurts responds with an STFU, basically. I love Chris Jones, man, but I'm siding with Jalen Hurts on this one. Didn't we hear Brendan Daly almost verbatim say that players on this team, let me back up. Brendan Daly said in a press conference last year that he's been on teams in the past where players were bitching and moaning because they didn't have the stats they wanted. And he was pleased to see that this Chiefs team was not doing that. Brendan Daly coached for Bill Belichick. Okay. Like, this guy has 6 Super Bowl rings. This guy is Thanos, essentially. The fact that Chris Jones is bringing up stats while the opponent is in victory formation. Chris Jones is the last guy to be talking about stats. And listen, I'll defend Chris Jones a little bit here. He's frustrated because the Chiefs defense played a great game. It was not perfect, but you held Philly to 20 points. There's not much more you could have done if you're the Chiefs defense. Yeah, Jalen Hurts played a bad game. Patrick Mahomes outplayed Jalen Hurts. People said the same thing the other way around in Super Bowl 57, that Jalen Hurts outplayed Patrick Mahomes. But who won? Patrick won that game. And this one, the QB that got outplayed won the game. So why is Chris Jones talking? Listen, Chris Jones has been penalized a couple of times in the past for getting in the opponent's face and talking shit. It happened to Matt Ryan in that Colts game in 2022, I think. And then in 2023, it happened against the Dolphins in Germany. And what happened on both of those drives? The Colts and the Dolphins scored touchdowns. And that one against the Colts, that was costly. Very costly. Listen, have whatever opinion you want about taunting and all of that. It's in the rule book. I mean, Chris Jones knows better than anyone on this team that taunting exists. Taunting, unsportsmanlike conduct, whatever, under the same umbrella. You've got to be better than that. Why are you talking when you're right now on the losing end of a QB kneel? Here's something else the Chiefs are getting criticized for is the players. So we saw Tyquan Thornton arrive wearing a free 4 shirt, referring to Rashee Rice serving a 6-game suspension right now. And he has to serve 30 days jail time at some point during his 5-year probation. During pregame, Travis Kelce and a couple of other receivers had those shirts on during pregame warmups. Oh boy. Listen, I'm pulling for Rashee Rice. First of all, Rashee Rice is fortunate that no one was critically injured. Yeah, there were some injuries in that accident, but this could have ended worse. Look at Henry Ruggs. That guy does not have a job right now for a reason, because someone innocent lost their life because of the mistakes made by Henry Ruggs. I shouldn't say mistakes. I should say decisions made by Henry Ruggs. Rashee Rice made a decision that night with his buddies. What message were they trying to send by saying free 4 and wearing those shirts? Because Andy Reid spoke about it today, and he gave a very PR answer. He said, yeah, that's just them supporting Rice because they know how badly he wants to be out there. Nothing more than that. No, I'm not buying that. Not buying that. What is that? When you're saying free 4, you're essentially saying that he shouldn't be serving a suspension. Listen, I was on here talking to you guys the morning that footage came out. I did not sugarcoat any of that. I have no tolerance for people who get behind the wheel and make bad decisions. Listen, man, I'm sure many of you guys have seen this. I've been on the highway many times where people are, okay, I shouldn't say many times, but more than anyone should have. There's drag racing going on in highways. I've seen it on highways. I've also seen it in small streets. It is a very selfish thing to do. And not only that, he walked away from the scene. And listen, I've said this many times. I think people who are in higher places, like an NFL player that's got a Super Bowl ring, you tend to get things, you tend to get a slap on the wrist. What Rashee Rice did, a lot of people would have had much bigger consequences. Rashee Rice has 5 years probation, which is something. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's nothing. And he has to serve 30 days jail time. And he gets to choose when to serve that jail time. Dude, if I did what Rice did and I was an NFL player, that would be the biggest and softest slap on the wrist of all time. Because let's be completely honest. Now, 6-game suspension, okay, I don't think that's anything outrageous. I think that was expected. But the 30 days jail time and you can serve it whenever you want, yeah, no one else is getting that kind of privilege. That's not a good look for the Chiefs. Again, I don't know what message. When you're saying free someone, you're essentially wanting them to not suffer the consequences. You got to suffer the consequences. For actions have consequences. And Rice made his decision. And, I'm pulling for him to learn from this and not make that mistake again. He's very fortunate this was not a situation that ended like Henry Ruggs or Britt Reed. Yeah, and listen, we've talked about those instances ad nauseum many times. He's very lucky. I think any aspiring NFL player in high school and college, they have to look at Rice, Ruggs, Reed, and what they did, and use that as an example to not make those same mistakes. So hopefully Rice is going to be on the right track and not make those mistakes anymore. But I can't push back on some of the criticism the Chiefs are receiving on this. I truly can't. I'll end on this. Charlie says, any update on when Royals is able to play yet? Andy Reid did not provide that today, but he will have that answer Wednesday afternoon. So if you're waiting to hear about Royals, you'll get your answer Wednesday around 12 o'clock when Andy Reid does his next press conference. We're all waiting for him. He was supposed to be the guy to fill in for Rice and pick up his slack even as a rookie, but we haven't seen him play for the Chiefs yet. So hopefully sooner rather than later. Here's my thing: if he's not on IR, he's got to be back soon at some point. You would think, but we'll see. All right, that'll do it for this edition of the Chiefs Zone podcast. Thank you all so much for joining me on this Monday night. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you miss any part of the live show, we're going to archive it very soon on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X. It's also going to be up very shortly on Spotify and Apple and anywhere else where you can download and listen to a podcast. If you guys enjoy this, please share this with your friends. Guys, the social media, the last 2 weeks, really since training camp, but even more so the last 2 weeks, it's been just bonkers, off the charts. I'm not able to keep up with the comments. For the longest time, I've not been able to keep up with the comments, but it's getting even more and more, and that's a huge thanks to you guys. We're getting more and more new followers, more and more new faces that interact with us in these live streams. That means a lot. I appreciate all of you guys. Please continue to share all these things because that's how we get pushed out there with the algorithm and all of that stuff, and that really does go a long ways. So thank you all for doing that. Once again, I'm Farzin Vousoughian. I'm out. Enjoy the Monday Night Football doubleheader. Peace out.